It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is April 8th. It's a Tuesday. It's election day. John, first off, go vote. Secondly, after I get off
voted early?
No, I don't vote anymore.
I know, but I'm telling you, as we discussed on the show, I voted 2 weeks ago.
That's right. You've already voted. Okay. Today also is the St. Louis Small Business, the Business Expo at St. Charles Convention Center. I don't know how many times I've done this. Probably this is maybe the 15th or 16th time we've done this show. It's a great show. Cost you nothing. I'll be there at a booth if you want to come by and talk. Come by and say hi, whatever. If you are a business person, this is a great way to go meet other people. If you are looking for a job, and this is a very important aspect, you can walk up to a lot of these booths, and the owner of the company or someone high level is right there. You don't have to chase them on the phone. You don't have to text them, or you don't have to, play the John Combest game where you're going to say, okay, I'm going to call you on the phone, but I'm going to text you first, so you'll take my phone call. Or
That's funny.
I'm going to text you before I email you, so you won't get offended by a text that you get as an email that I haven't preceded by.
That's good. I like that, Brad. Give it to me. I like it.
By a letter in the mail. But anyway, it's absolutely free. Starts at 11 o'clock, goes to like 5 o'clock. Come on by, say hi, but go check the thing out. You won't be disappointed. There's all sorts of different people there. And, one of my favorite things is if you've got a sweet tooth like I do, lots of free candy, because not everybody, but quite a few people have little candy bowls at their little displays that you can grab.
Oh, that's just what people milling around a convention center need, is something sugary, Brad.
Right. You need that kind of stuff. Okay. Second off, here we go again. There's a rage going on Facebook about the Cottleville Fire Protection District, okay? There's a picture that has hit the internet. Do you know this crazy story?
No, I haven't.
There's a picture that's hit the internet. On the back of one of their pumpers, I think is one of their pumpers, there is what people are saying is a noose. There's a noose on the back of this.
But you're joking me. Have we learned nothing from Bubba Wallace?
Well, I see if I can find it for you and send it to you. Here, let me do it. I know where because here's the interesting thing. Someone sent it to me. Okay, and this is on the back of pumper 8734, engine 8734. It is, and matter of fact, I'll screenshot this to you right now and shoot this to you so you can see this. And it's to the point where this is here. I send it to you, and you know who. You can both see this. Okay, so the story is someone complained to the Cottleville Fire Protection District that, OMG, there's a noose on the back of their pumper. So what's the reason for this? Skip Stevens, who is the chief operating officer at Cottleville Fire Protection District, and he says, this is our truck. I understand why someone might see this rope and have concerns of this being an outward display of racism, but is 100% not that at all. This is a simple figure-8 knot that is commonly used in the fire service. Our personnel use this rope to pull the large diameter hoses out of the hose bed just above where the rope is located. This is not a noose. Nonetheless, we are sensitive to everyone's perception, especially in today's tumultuous society. We have moved the rope up and into the hose bed to make sure that nobody else has the same reaction. For any questions or concerns, please call me at 314-803-0308. Thank you, Skip Stevens. Can we leave people alone with this stupid noose crap? It's to the point where it's like, how many stories turn out like this, where like the Bubba Wallace thing or the crazy, And the bizarre part of this is that when they do find a noose, and it really is a noose, and I hate to say this, what is usually the bottom line of the story, John? Who put it there?
The person who wanted it to be discovered and for somebody to assume it was racist.
Right. There's a great story.
It was a hoax, yeah.
There's a great story that has been told, not on our show, but on matter of fact, on the Armstrong and Getty show, about a woman, and I can't remember what city this is in. She comes into work one morning, and OMG, there's a noose on her desk, and she's a black person. So she goes ape, you know what? Oh, it's terrible, racism, blah, 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 blah. So the police department for this particular town takes it very seriously. They come, they put on their gloves, they grab the noose, they take it back to the crime lab, they interview all the employees, and then what they do is they say, okay, the only way for us to really figure out who this is, we want each of you to give a DNA sample to us. So everybody in this particular office, once this municipal office, some city office, everybody gets a DNA sample, except for Guess who, John?
Oh, the woman that put it there, the so-called victim.
Right. And she won't give a DNA sample. So then she says, well, maybe just let this thing go. This is a true story. I'm not making this up. So they say, no, this is a serious problem. We're going to get to the bottom of this. So I think they finally got a court order to have her give a DNA sample. And guess whose DNA was not all over the noose, but on the inside of the noose where, the hands had been touching it as you were tying it. And there's no way somebody's DNA could have gotten on the inside of the noose unless they tied it. Guess who DNA it was? It was hers. And it's like,
get out of here, Brad.
Yeah, it's like, is that a shocker? It's like, okay. And, it's like, okay, they talk about the fact that the arsonists sometimes are the ones that start the fires, and they're the ones at the scene of the fire. And sometimes, they're the people who are the one who's dialing 911. Oh, my God, there's a fire. There's a house on fire. And that's not me, John, because even though I did report a house on fire about a month ago, I had nothing to do with it. Okay, so literally.
Wait a minute, Brad. It's all unraveling.
Okay, here's an interesting story. I talk about this all the time. You're going to go, here he goes again. Headline, Hungary, the country, Hungary offered 30,000 euros to couples having 3 kids, but its birth rate has still fallen to a record monthly low. What do you think about this story, John?
And wait, what country was this has a birth rate at a record low?
Hungary. Hungary. They offered 30,000 euros to couples having 3 kids, but its birth rate has still fallen to a record monthly low. The problem,
I don't know enough about Hungary. Are the men there disgusting, or are the women obese, or what's going on there?
Well, what's interesting, this is something, there's commonality among all these countries that women are increasingly becoming averse to living the lifestyle that has been perpetrated for decades and centuries, that the man is the guy who goes out and and chases down the food and drags it back to the cave, and the woman is the person who is making sure the cave is clean and stuff like that. And a lot of women, especially if you see what's going on in colleges, because it's fairly well known fact that most colleges have a 60-40 split of men versus women, and it's 60% women, 40% men. A lot of these women are essentially, becoming very good at whatever they study. They're getting job offers, and they don't necessarily want to leave their job to have babies. Or a lot of them just don't want to have a guy. They just want to be on their own. And, and this is happening all over Europe. Japan has had a terrible problem with this. Japan has a very negative birth rate. And essentially, I believe that the figures are that you have to have, for every woman of childbearing ages, that woman has to produce 2.5 kids, which obviously you can't produce half of a kid, but some women have 2 kids, some women have 1, some women have 4, and we don't see that anymore. I mean, I'm proud of the fact that I have 4 kids, but the interesting part of this is, with me having 4 kids, I only have 1 granddaughter. I only have 1 grandchild, and my oldest son is not married. My middle son is, but probably will never have any kids. My daughter is married. She had 1 kid, and she's told the world that that's it. She's not going to have any more kids. And my youngest son has never been married, has no kids. So for me, and I know I know several friends of mine that the 1 of 4, 1 of 5 kids. One family I know, 1 of 4 kids, no kids. They've had no kids from, so they have none of their siblings have ever had, either if they're women they haven't given birth, or if they're men they're in a marriage where they've never had any kids. And the crazy part of this is that this is happening all over the world, and especially in Europe, because it's gotten to the point where the ideal of having a family is no longer looked at that. Now, you and I grew up in North County. And what was the big thing with Catholics? How many Catholic?
Oh, they have a lot of kids, Brad. They use the old rhythm method.
Right. How many kids? You talk about the fact that you grew up in a street, or you were the only non-Catholic family.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of multiple sibling families on your street?
Litters of Catholics, Brad. Litters of Catholics.
What was the most number? Do you remember how most number of kids?
I'd say 4.
4.
A solid 4.
And the average was 3, 2, something like that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, probably the average is 3, yeah.
So in other words, that was positive birth rate back then. If you took your microcosm of your world in Spanish Lake, okay. The interesting part of this is, the story gets more interesting because I find this fascinating. They have a deal where they are also letting people immigrate into Hungary, but you have to take an extensive course and then pass a test on the history of Hungary and its traditions and what's expected of you. Now,
I like that. They're having some standards there in Hungary.
Well, I'm thinking to myself, okay, why don't we do that in the United States? I've said this
because that would be racist.
Well, exactly, it'd be racist. I've said all along, one of my things has been, okay, what we need to do is we need to vet these people to come to the United States. Because remember, that used to be the standard. If you immigrated to the United States, you were told you cannot be a drag on the United States economy. You have to be self-sufficient, and you have to either have a family you're going to move in with, or you have to essentially prove to us that you've already gained employment. You've already gotten a job with somebody. You've already going to, in other words, you're not going to be a drain on the public as far as welfare and things like that. But yet, what happened under Biden? What happened under Biden? Just the opposite. Anybody and their brother could come in.
It's a free-for-all. It's a Wild West. Come on in. There's plenty of room, and you might be able to get some health care. You might be able to get a debit card you could use.
Might be able to. You almost guaranteed you were going to get that.
And what would Dave Ramsey say about their FICO scores? You think an illegal immigrant can build a FICO score?
Well, first off, I don't know the deal on that. Can as you're an illegal immigrant, you can't get a Social Security number, can you?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think they're just prepaid cards. I'm being silly.
Things like this bother me. And I told you the goofy story. I've told you this before. My very first class at SIU Uddersville was this crazy, weird professor who was, teaching us this thing. What's the name of the book? You remember the name of the book? I can never remember the name of the book. It was
The Population Bomb by Paul Ehrlich.
The Population Bomb by Paul Ehrlich. Exactly, John. You're very sharp on this kind of stuff. And the book was written in the late 60s, I believe. And he wrote it with his wife, and he's a pointy-headed, academic. I think him and his wife both taught at Stanford or something like that. And this book was digested hook, line, and sinker by my professor. And he was beating his book on the desk, literally saying, we're going to have a problem where there's going to be famines because there's going to be so many people on the face of the earth that there's no food, and there's going to be no government because people are just going to essentially attack the governments, and the United States will fall and the European countries will fall. Guess what happened? That was how many years ago? Like 50 plus years ago when I was attending college?
1968. So gosh, we're pushing 60?
So now what's the problem?
Not enough people.
Not enough people.
What's the opposite of a bomb? The population crater.
Implosion.
We should write a book called The Population Crater.
Well, a bomb explodes and something else implodes. This would be like a vacuum or the population vacuum or something like that.
The population vacuum.
And this is the thing where when someone says, well, he's an expert on this, I think to myself, are they really an expert? I mean, John, do you consider yourself an expert at anything you do? And I don't mean disrespect.
No, absolutely not. No, I consider myself, I have a lot of experience in different fields. From you make a mistake here, you make a mistake there, you learn from it. But I would never call myself an expert on anything.
I agree with you 100%. I've had people say, well, you're an expert at radio. No, I'm not. And they go, well, I go, look.
But you've got a lot of experience, and you're knowledgeable of it. You would be comfortable saying you're knowledgeable of it. But, Brad, you don't have the kind of ego where you would say, I am an expert on radio.
But the interesting part of it is I learn something new every day. I have to tell you, in the last 5 years, John, things that I've done differently with the radio stations and things that I've learned both programming-wise and sales-wise and ownership-wise. I mean, you want, and the crazy thing about that is sometimes I wake up in the morning, I think to myself, God, yesterday I learned this and this and this. And I'm one of these guys that has this thirst for knowledge, and I've told these crazy stories about the fact that I have my HVAC license. I have an EPA HVAC license. I can legally fix your air conditioner. I can buy the Freon and stuff like that. Why is that? And it's funny because one of my clients on KSLQ or on Westplex is an HVAC guy, great guy, Jeremy Wolf. And I told him when I first met him, I go, I have my EPA HVAC certification. He looked at me and goes, why is that? And I go, because here's my story. If my air conditioner goes out the transmitter site, it'll go out on a Friday at 3 o'clock before a 3-day weekend, and all you HVAC guys are already at the lake. And he just laughed and he says, you're right.
It's absolutely true. Are they the guys that do the free tacos gimmick?
Yeah. Yeah, do you like that?
It's so good. Brad, the ad is so good. You know this. The ad is so good that I thought you did it. And that, for folks who don't know, I heard an ad like 2 weeks ago on the radio, and I texted Brad and I said, hey, I heard your ad for these guys. It's so good. It was so good, Brad. I thought you did the ad.
Can I tell you something, John?
Yeah.
I did do the ad.
You did or you didn't?
I did. That's my creative from start to finish. And I'm
well then, but when I asked you that, you said that belonged to the other guys.
I'm being very selfless. I'm being very.
I get it. Okay, so here's the thing. It has your intellectual fingerprints all over it. So how about I just turn, and since you won't take the credit, Brad, because you're very humble, I'll take the credit for knowing your intellectual thumbprint was all over that ad. And Brad, where would people go to learn more information about that company?
staycool-hvac.com. It's an interesting story. It's a great story. The guy's name is Jeremy Wolf. His brother, I think 2 of his brothers work there. His dad is in sales, talking about a company, a family-owned company. And these guys are real good. I'm telling you. As a matter of fact, what got me was when I met with him, the first time I met with him, he takes me back to his conference room. And there are nothing but, I'm not exaggerating when I say there's probably 10 furnaces in this room, stacked next to each other. And I go, what is this? And they're not for like customers to look at because most of them are older furnaces. And he says, this is where we train our techs. And he says, as we bring a new tech on board, he says, I'll go through one of these furnaces and I will purposely do something to it. And I'll bring the tech in and say, okay, fix this furnace. I'm thinking to myself,
what's wrong with it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great idea.
Right. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, these guys get it. I met his father.
And I remember the time I fell for that because you said you wanted me to fix your tower. And you blindfolded me, and you took me to the corner of like 44, like around Vianney, and you said, go up there and cut every wire. And I didn't get it, And then we got called into the KFUO office, and I figured out what you did.
The KFUO office. And you know what? Can I tell you something that I shouldn't tell you?
Yes, please do.
That's still winding its way through the FCC.
I bet it is. They move at a lightning pace.
And they are, the KFUO people, the Lutheran Church people, are not happy with me. And I don't know if I told you, the crazy part of this story is that they have another station right at their transmitter sits at the corner of Central School Road and Cottleville or St. Peter's Cottleville Road. They are running the exact same program on other stations. They have like 6 stations now, and it's the same program. And it's like, okay, I don't quite get it. And, and once again, to them, it's like, well, we're spreading the word of God. We're spreading the word of the gospel. And I'm going like, okay, nowadays, 40 years ago, I can see that. Nowadays, just put up some streaming channels, because, rather than duplicate, just like what K-Love's doing. Here we go again. You caught me into doing the K-Love thing. Okay, we're done. I won't bore you with that, John. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got to go call Dial-Up Prayer. I have to call KFUO's flagship phone line.
Once upon a time, that was a thing, right, John?
I called it every week.
When you and I were growing up, dial a prayer, and there was a guy that every day gave you a different prayer, right? That was what it was.
Yeah, and it was dial a story for kids.
Yes. Okay, we got to go. Say goodbye, John. Oh,
see you guys tomorrow.
By the way, one more time. Today, St. Charles Convention Center, Small Business Expo, actually just Biz Expo. Any size businesses. Come on by, 11 to 5. It's free, and you can get some free candy, okay?